Hi, I'm Andrew Fleming. I'm a reporter at the Vancouver Courier, and I'm sitting here today with my colleague Niamh O'Connor. One of her top stories this week involves the Oakridge development. There's a new condo development proposed. We're calling it a condo development. Doesn't quite do it justice. There's a huge project being proposed for along the Oakridge corridor along Cambie Street. And for viewers who may not be aware, development's always kind of a hot topic here in Vancouver. Unlike a lot of cities where they can just kind of sprawl out in all directions, we're kind of bordered. We're bordered by the mountains, we're bordered by the sea, and we're bordered by the Americans. So there's not really a lot of places to go but up. But in this case, going up is generating a bit of controversy. What can you tell me about the project?
Well, I'll just give you a little bit of background, first of all. As we know, Oakridge is at 41st and Cambie, and it was developed in 1956. And right now, it's basically like a big parking lot with a few buildings, and the highest building right now is 7 stories. And so it's in quite a residential neighborhood as well. So last November, the owner of the mall, Ivanhoe Cambridge, along with West Bank Development, applied to rezone the property for a mixed-use development. And what they're proposing is quite a dense development with building heights up to a maximum of 45 stories. The existing policy statement for Oakridge allows buildings of up to 24 stories, and that was decided in 2007. And I believe at that time there was also only supposed to be 2 buildings of that height. So the development at that time did not go through due to the economy, I believe. So this new rezoning application is calling for just a huge change in the neighborhood, which is creating some controversy among people who live there. On the other hand, a lot of people are quite supportive of it because they see it as this sustainable development. There's going to be, according to the proposal, they're asking for 13 buildings of between 18 and 45 stories. With so the number of residential units will be about 2,800. So that's a huge amount of people in that sense. Plus more retail space, a rooftop garden, and some affordable housing component.
Affordable housing, that would probably be an interesting component. I mean, it seems inevitable this would change when they built the Canada line in, and you've got this, all of a sudden you've got the SkyTrain. It's not going to stay a sleepy residential development forever. But it does seem that 45 stories seem a bit much. I wonder if maybe the compromise is like, well, we won't give you 45, but instead we'll give you 30 instead of the 24 at Zone 4 now. Would that be just, do you think there's any truth to that?
You know, it's really hard to say this early in the game what's actually going to end up there. This past week, the staff created an interim report that Council voted on just to see if Council was happy with the way the direction the application was going. And Council did endorse the possibility of having towers of up to 45 stories. So whether they will ultimately be that high, it's hard to say. They still have to go through a public hearing. There is more consultation that's going to happen at the end of this month or the beginning of July, and again in the fall. And the public hearing they're projecting will be possibly as early as December. But it's so hard to say how high the towers will actually be. I know a lot of people think that developers ask for the world, and then so that people will be happy when they go down, 10 stories or whatever. I wouldn't want to guess what's going to happen at this point.
Okay. Well, I expect this will be an ongoing story for quite some time. I imagine the public hearing process will be a long one if the Rise development was anything to go by. I look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Well, I know, any development in Vancouver, even if it's a single tower in a neighborhood, oftentimes ends up being a 2 or 3 day hearing. So I'll be interested to know how many days this one goes.
You could call it a developing story. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.